Hello viewers, here is Kathy's second video. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, do so first before watching this video. Only then you will be able to understand. Kathy was brutally killed. The police now suspect Kathy's husband, Mike, and the neighbor, Tim Robinson, who checked Kathy's house. Both of them are considered as suspects by the police because there were stains in Kathy's husband Mike's t-shirt, and some stains were found in Tim Robinson's car floor mat also. So maybe Mike could have murdered, or neighbor Tim Robinson could have murdered, or both of them could have killed Kathy together. So Mike's t-shirt and Tim Robinson's car mat both were sent to forensic lab to be tested. After some days, the results came out. The police who saw the result was very shocked. Why? Because the stain in Kathy's husband Mike's t-shirt was a paint stain, and stain in Tim Robinson's car floor mat was motor oil stain. Not only that, their co-workers also gave a strong evidence that is on the same day of that incident and at 1 in the noon, which was said that the murder has happened. They was in their workplace. Since it was not enough, police asked them to take a polygraph test. So both of them took the polygraph test and they passed it. Now there is no evidence against them, so police removed them from the suspect list. Now the police have to find the killers since they were not the one. But the only clue they had now is the clue said by 4-year-old Tasha. The killer had a blonde hair. That's it. Now what the police thought is Kathy know the killer and the 4-year-old Tasha also know him. But it was neither neighbor Tim Robinson or Kathy's husband Mike. So now, who might be the killer? But the police know one thing, that is the killer is quite close. So did the police find the killer? How did they crack this case? And how did forensic help this case? That's what we are going to talk detailedly in today's video. It's Naveen. Come, let's move on to today's video. The only important piece of evidence to identify Kathy's killer is her 4-year-old child, Tasha. Tasha's head was injured hardly. Her face was very swollen. The killer folded his fingers and punched Tasha's face. Now Tasha is getting treatment at the hospital. And when Tasha was in hospital, Tasha's uncle Greg came there to see Tasha. And Tasha's grandmother was also there with her. As soon as she saw her uncle Greg, Tasha's behavior started to change completely. Tasha started looking at her grandmother very nervously and fearfully. Seeing this, her grandmother became suspicious and asked Tasha, did uncle came home that day? And also asked whether the killer is her uncle. But Tasha said that she doesn't remember anything. So the police tried to hypnotize Tasha and bring back her forgotten memories. But no use, Tasha couldn't bring back her memories. Tasha's uncle Greg, who was 35-year-old, married Kathy's only sister Shelley 5 years ago. Both Shelley and Greg used drugs frequently, and they were in jail for that. In fact, Kathy shifted to another house because of Greg. Kathy was afraid to be alone with Greg because Greg tried to misbehave with Kathy several times. Now everyone started to doubt Greg. Greg had an affection for Kathy, and Kathy didn't like it. Everyone knew that. When the police moved from this angle, a solid evidence was found that Greg was in Kathy's house. Greg's fingerprints were taken from Kathy's home. But with that, we cannot say that Greg is a killer, because Greg was Tasha's uncle. He used to visit that house often. In that case, her fingerprints in that house was very normal, but if a fingerprint of a stranger was there means it might be taken as a good evidence. Now police started investigating Kathy's friends. Kathy said to her friends that Greg was obsessed with one of her body parts, that is her stomach. Now the police noticed one thing. Coincidentally, Kathy was stabbed many times in her stomach. Now the police got suspicious and started to investigate Greg, but Greg said that he has nothing to do with that murder. When they investigated Greg's wife Shelley on that day morning, when the incident happened, Greg dropped Shelley at school at 10:30 and picked her up from the school at 2 in the afternoon and said that he didn't go anywhere else. According to the autopsy report, the murder took place at 1 p.m. If Greg had done this murder means he might had the time to come out of the crime scene after the murder and clean it up. In the crime scene and in Kathy's bathroom, even though there was Greg's fingerprint and hair, it cannot be taken as evidence because he belongs to the family, and there was fingerprints and hair of other family members also. Though Kathy was raped since the crime happened 1986, by analyzing the semen DNA and solving the case with that was not possible at that periods of time. That time, they used a technique called serology, basically like blood group typing, and also require large amount of blood, and only blood type can be known from that. When they checked it, it was the blood type as Greg. That is, the killer has a O blood group. Likewise, Greg also has O blood group, but nothing can be decided with this. Kathy's case started to turn into a cold case. The days started passing. Greg and Shelley started living their lives. But Kathy's father was living with this in his mind. The one who is responsible for one of his daughter's death was living happy with his older daughter, and he doubted Greg fully. Since the situation is going like this, after 11 years from then, with the DNA test by creating a DNA profile, and from that the killer can be found, such technology came into existence. Now they took biological evidence from Kathy's rape kit and started creating a DNA profile from it, and it was compared to Greg's DNA profile. While comparing like that, not only the police but also the family members were also shocked. Why means DNA didn't match. But what the forensic team said is, since that biological evidence was too old, they couldn't match it 100%, but within the 2% of the killer circle. They said that it matches the Greg's DNA profile. By hearing that, Kathy's father thought that he found the killer, but Greg had another answer for that. What Greg said is, on that day morning, before the murder happened, he and Kathy had sex, and said that he had an affair with Kathy. When he was with Kathy that morning, Kathy was alive. So I don't know what happened after that, and said that he has nothing to do with the murder. Police couldn't arrest Greg even now. Why? Because he said that he was there that morning, but now they need the proof that he killed Kathy. So now, how the police is going to find that evidence? It has been 4 years since the DNA test, but the investigators were searching for the evidence that Greg was the killer. Now regarding this case, in a private forensic lab in Dallas, they started working with a forensic officer called Catherine. Catherine's father was the chief of police in Texas, so Catherine's thinking will be different from other scientists, and they were doing a test in the private forensic lab at that time. What was the test means? If a killer strangles a victim's neck, at that time they were doing experiments to see if the skin cells of the killer would be deposited in the victim's body, and they found that a particular movement of skin cells deposit on victim's body. Now all they have to do is to take evidence from Kathy, that is from the evidence found from the crime scene. They have to find if the killer's skin cell has deposited somewhere. Likewise, they found it, the wire which was used to tie Kathy's hand backside. If you go to a place, you will definitely leave an evidence without knowing. It can be your hair, your fingerprint, or your skin cells. Luckily, when they were storing the evidence, they stored in a cloth like paper bag without storing it in a plastic bag. Because of that, the moisture in the wire was dried and it will store it safely longer than the plastic bag. That wire was fully covered with blood. Now the forensic officers swabbed the wire and started checking for skin cells in that. When they tested like that, they took 2 genetic profiles from that. One is victim Kathy's and the other is Greg's. There is only one chance for his DNA to be present on that wire. That is nothing but Greg is the killer. Greg was arrested and put to jail. There he told his prison inmate that how he killed Kathy. He was fully drunk on the day of the murder. He went to Kathy's house and knocked on the door. Kathy, who opened the door, let him in without any other option. As soon as he went inside, he saw Tasha watching TV, sitting in the sofa. After that, he tried to take sexual advantage of Kathy. Kathy pushed him away and started shouting at him to leave the house. He immediately went to Tasha and hid his face with one hand, and with the other hand he punched Tasha in the face several times and made her unconscious. Next, he looked at the room where 2-month-old Sean was there and said that he was the next. Seeing that, Kathy said she will do anything he says, but he should not hurt her child. She started doing everything he said to save her children. She removed her dress as he said. That's why the dress was at the same place. Now he took the lamp wire and tied Kathy's hand behind her back. That's when his skin cells were stored in the wire. After that, he raped Kathy and stabbed Kathy in her stomach several times and killed her. He washed everything in the bathroom and took off his clothes and wore Kathy's husband's dress. Only then his car will not be blooded. But after 15 years later, when the technology advances, he might not thought that he would catch someday. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison. But within 4 years after he went to jail, when he was 56, he died of liver disease while in jail. No matter how, the culprit will be caught. Almost 20 years ago, this type of technology was used in America. I will meet you all in another video. Thank you. Bye.